The Maple Leafs booked their ticket into the postseason with a win over the Panthers. Let's break it all down on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. What's going on, brother? How we feeling today?
Feeling pretty good. Welcome back. Good to have you back.
Thank you. Appreciate you for keeping things afloat over the course of the last week. Listened to a couple of episodes. Did a great job.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
How's the vacay?
Well, I don't know if you could tell but I got a little bit of sun. My shoulder is so red it's not even funny.
Wow.
But I can't complain about that because I had fun in the sun and it wasn't that nice here in Toronto. So I can't complain about it too much. But let me tell you, I got a lot of sun and I'm very red. But I was locked into what was going on with the Maple Leafs. So they're on their California road trip. We were both in nice weather climates, that's for sure. And I was excited to get back and watch this game tonight, though. Like I got back late last night, and I was gearing up for tonight's game against the Florida Panthers. And, buddy, they came out with a win and officially booked their ticket into the postseason. It was a massive victory. I think morality-wise, they get a win against Florida, which is huge. They needed this win. I think it's massive. Now they got a little bit of a buffer between them, the Panthers, and the Lightning are now in between those two, but it's still a big win that they needed. But most importantly, Dave, that's now 9 straight seasons that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to the postseason. That's pretty significant, man. Like they've been on a nice run here in the Matthews, Marner, Nylander era.
Yeah, the entire era has been playoffs. They don't know anything other than playoffs during this time. And, pretty sure still the longest active streak in the NHL is the Leafs at 9 straight, which I remember the time when the Leafs had the longest playoff drought active playoff drought in a while. So it's just crazy the kind of the flip of the coin with that. They when you put it into a bubble like 9 straight, that's pretty impressive.
It is impressive, and I can already hear half the people listening to the podcast is, 9 straight trips, but only one round one, and I could hear it. I know, guys, I get it. I'm not trying to throw a parade or toss up a banner for making the playoffs, but the fact that they're just the third team in the Eastern Conference to book their ticket to the postseason, they're guaranteed to get in, and now they can just set their sights solely on winning the division. And tonight's victory was definitely a good step toward making that happen. It was kind of crazy, Dave. Like, I don't know if you guys have been talking about this over the course of the last week or so, but just how little this team actually wins the division is astounding to me. Like, it's such a storied franchise. The fact that they only have 2 division wins since 1963. 1963, David. Only 2 one of them was the Canadian division, so it doesn't even count. It's like 1.5 times the team has won their division since 1963. It's actually insane to me how little that they've done that. And another 2 points tonight, they have themselves in pretty good position to make it happen, to win their first Atlantic division title. The Canadian division, the last time they've ever won the Atlantic title, and a win tonight puts them in a pretty good spot to do it. I believe FanDuel has them with the best odds to win the division now.
Yeah, I brought it up a few days ago how it's crazy that in a non-COVID year where COVID wasn't a factor at all, they only won the division once since in what do they call it, the post-expansion era.
Yes,
it's unbelievable. There were some good Leaf teams in that time, in those early 2000s, but only one of those teams ever really had won the division. So this is what makes this year different, is because They're gonna do something that this team hasn't done very often, and that is what gives us a different feel for me. This is what gives the idea of winning division. Maybe it presents a different mindset for this team heading into the playoffs. Because how many years in a row we talked about? We already know it's the Bruins round one. We already know it's Tampa round one. Now, technically, now it'll be like, all right, well, it looks like it's going to be Ottawa round one. But the idea of you control a bit more of your fate and your destiny by winning that division, I think, holds such a. Again, it's just the way this team's mindset has been. I think it makes this a little more significant.
Well, you get the easier matchup in round one, but then you also have home ice advantage in round two, right? So like that's what you're getting when you win the division here. So that's hopefully what Toronto is looking to do, and maybe even Washington gets bounced out and they'll have an opportunity to have home ice throughout the East if they make it that far into the Eastern Conference Finals. Like let's say New Jersey or maybe the Habs make a run on the crossover. Unlikely.
With the way the Capitals have been playing lately, the realm of possibilities. They just lost their goaltender.
They get bounced by Carolina. They got smoked by Carolina last night. Ovi got his goal. Ovi got at the goal, but they didn't play well and they lost that game. So it wouldn't shock me if the Capitals, they're going to win the Eastern Conference in the regular season. They're going to hold the number 1 seed and have home ice through the Eastern Finals. But it wouldn't shock me if that's a team that gets out early, which means Toronto has a chance to maybe have home ice through the Eastern Conference Finals. And if that's the case, you got to like those chances of them maybe making a run. But again, they've got to play the way that they did tonight. Second period aside, I did not like their game at all. That's how they got to play, right? That's what they got to do. What the performance they put up against LA over the weekend. That's the way they have to play come playoff time. So, but again, just a big step in the right direction for the Buds getting the win tonight. Why don't we take a break? We'll come back. We'll break down the victory. We'll get into the nitty gritty, get to our 3 stars of the game. And is there concern with a couple of injuries that occurred in tonight's game? Jake McCabe and David Kampf both left with injuries. We'll get an update on those later on in the podcast. Stay tuned. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues on the other side. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like watching hockey live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers, skates on the ice, and maybe even a celebrity sighting rinkside. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff. It shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. They've got easy ticket shopping. I just checked the Game Time app, and there are amazing deals on some huge matchups coming up. You can get some Game Time picks. They even highlight super deals, giving you the best bang for your buck. And with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a low price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you, coming off a Leafs win over the Florida Panthers, 3-2 in regulation, which is big. Didn't give up a point to Florida. Wasn't a 3-point game. They go 2 points up on the Panthers, and they now sit atop of the Atlantic Division all by themselves. And it was a big game, and they booked themselves a playoff spot for a 9th straight season. Dave, what did you make of the Leafs win tonight?
I thought they got off to a great start. I know we were talking before you left. You brought up the idea of coming off the California road trip, would they look a little sluggish? Luckily the NHL gave them a few days off to kind of get the legs under them a little bit, and they came off to a really good start. I was really happy about it, especially the top line. They were I felt like they had some good pressure. They had a lot of great chances, but Bobrovsky was standing on his head.
He was, man. Period. He was. And I got to tell you, I want to give some credit to the faithful down at Scotiabank Arena. I tweeted it out. I think it was like, man, maybe the second or third shift by that first line. The one where Matthews had the breakaway where he tried to sneak it between the legs. And he got denied, like you said, Bobrovsky playing well, but they had a really good shift, right? Spent most of the time in the attacking zone. They were moving the puck around. There was good pace, and then they ended up with a couple of good opportunities. And the crowd actually cheered. Like, they went to the bench and the crowd cheered them. I was like, whoa, all right, Scotiabank Arena into this game. So I was happy to see that. Now, I wouldn't say they necessarily continued to be as cheery. There wasn't a whole lot of goal scoring, I guess, for tonight until you got to the third period. You heard the goal horn go off a couple more times, but I agree with you. I thought that they had a really good start, and then it kind of, the second period they faded a little bit. Florida started to take a little bit more control of the game, but then third period came around and they scored two quick ones, and they go up 3-1, and they kind of were able to hunker down. They did allow one late, but they're able to stay with it, stick to their game. Stolarz made a couple of big beauty saves, and they were able to kind of, grind out a win. I think that was a win that you grind out, and that's the type of wins you're gonna have to do come playoff time. Now, my question to you, Dave, is 3-2. They got the win, got the 2 points, right? Can't knock them for that. But were you expecting a little bit more domination, given that, Florida, they were on night 2 of a back-to-back. They didn't have Tkachuk. They didn't have Barkov. They didn't have Ekblad or Kulikov.
Yeah, that was my thing. It was just like this Panthers lineup still giving the Leafs like this much. Like, credit the Panthers. You're down Barkov, you're down Kulikov, Tkachuk. Second night of a back-to-back, and Ekblad, sorry. And you're like, it was as if it was like they had a full lineup because the way they pushed right until the end of the game. They're now a couple of power plays really, helped them out. That late power play gave them that chance to stay close. But I thought this was a game where two things happened. One, Bobrovsky stood on his head quite a bit because the Leafs in the third period, that should not have been that close. I thought the Leafs had some really good chances. Anthony Stolarz also bailed them out too. And I wanted to see them bury those chances. I would like to have seen, okay, they eventually did. They eventually got those chances to come through, but there were more opportunities. And when you're going up against a team like the Panthers, you allow them to stick around, they are going to find a way at times to beat you, especially if you take, an untimely penalty and all that. So that's the one thing about this Leafs team. I want to see them bury on those chances that they get, because you're going to get chances like that, throughout the game. You got to find a way to make them count. And I feel like that was something that was missing from the team tonight at times.
I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you on that. And it was, you want to see a little bit more domination, but at the end of the day, you are happy that you saw, the big boys come up and score against that team specifically. The way they score goals seems like they worked for them. They grinded for them. And then the guy on the other side, to me, outdueled Sergei Bobrovsky, right? Like that's to me what is kind of the biggest thing that stuck out to me in this game is Toronto has a goaltender. And I think tonight probably solidified him as the game one starter. I think tonight's game was a test, and if he came up and put together a good performance, I think he was going to earn that start, and I think he did in this game. And I think he can go toe-to-toe with Sergei Bobrovsky, and there's not a lot of Leafs goalies over the past few years that you've been able to say that about. I think that's my biggest takeaway from this game is the Leafs didn't have their best. It wasn't a 60-minute performance, but their goaltending was so good that they're able to withstand it. And then, with Florida being on the second half of back-to-back, the third period, you figured the legs would start to go a little bit for them. And Toronto, if they wanted to, could take advantage. And they certainly did, took advantage of a couple of defensive breakdowns, especially on the Nyes goal, let him get in behind, and that stood as the game winner, right? So that's probably my biggest takeaway of the game is, with the way that Stolarz played, he gave the Leafs a chance to win. And then they were able to pull away and finally get it done in the third period. And that's not something that a lot of Leafs goalies have given the Leafs a chance to do over the last few years. And I think tonight, he won the job. I think he won the starting job for game 1, whether they're playing Florida, Tampa, Ottawa, whichever of those 3 that they see come game 1 of the playoffs. I think we'll see that guy between the pipes. I really do.
Yeah, no, I think right now, like I took some real thought of like watching Stolarz tonight. I'm like, this is a performance where, it's a tight game. Somebody has to give you that edge, right? Not many times in those tight games have the Leafs won the goaltending battle. We always talked about it.
No.
Bobrovsky in the playoffs, Vasilevsky in the playoffs. Last year, Swayman, well, maybe not as much. Like last year, there was at times
Swayman was great, dude.
Yeah,
Swayman was awesome.
over Samsonov. Yeah, Swayman over Wall. No, but we know how that all went, right?
Yeah, Tuukka Rask for years was, the devil, and like it's just the Leafs have always been on the wrong end of the goaltending duel. Typically, like getting goal lead is like the Leafs' forte for whatever reason. But Stolarz gives Toronto an opportunity to do that themselves. There was one save in particular that really, I think, stood out for me. It was that big save that he made on Anthony Duclair. Duclair made that nice little chip play to get it past Jake McCabe. I think he was like at the end of the shift. Like it was really late in his shift, and he ends up getting in all alone. And Stolarz had to make a massive leg save. Tried to take a cross crease. Stolarz kept with him, and he makes that big stop. And at that point, it was 1-1 in the third period. But midway through the third period, it was 1-1, and that game was still very much up for grabs. Stolarz makes that stop. What happens on the very next play? The Marner goal. Right? They allow that play to unfold, and then couple minutes later, Mitch Marner scores, makes it 2-1. Couple more minutes later, you get the goal from Nyes. It's 3-1, and all of a sudden, it was pretty much the game was over at that point with a couple of minutes to go. Florida got one back on the power play, but that was it. I didn't think Stolarz was going to give up another one. So, yeah, that's my big takeaway. To me, he was my first star, Anthony Stolarz, in this game here tonight. Faced a lot of rubber. He faced 31 shots tonight, stopped 29 of them, and he had a couple of big time saves that he had to make too. I mean, you look at Florida tonight. In all situations, they had 34 scoring chances. 34 scoring chances, 15 high danger chances tonight. And I believe their expected goals is 3.1. So he ends up with 1.13 goals saved above expectation. That's a really good Panthers team. Like, regardless of who they're missing, they still have some guys who could score. And Stolarz came up pretty big for them tonight.
Oh no, he was massive. He's also a massive goalie. Yes, I get that.
Yes,
but I do think that this is a game here where he needed it. As much as I think the Leafs needed him to win this game, I think himself, just the belief, because 2 tries already against Florida and he lost both of them. Right? I think he needed this for his own confidence to know that, yes, I can step up in a game of this magnitude. This is a big game. Yes, I know it wasn't the full Panthers team. I totally get that. But for himself, because I feel like the last few weeks, there hasn't been that adamant support behind Stolarz as the number one. There was still that inkling on, Joseph Woll's still poking around. Joseph Woll's had some shaky starts. And I think that this was the opportunity for the veteran to show the coaching staff that I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this. And so,
especially since this is like the response to what he did in LA. So it's like LA, big 35 save performance, and follows it up with another big time performance against another playoff team. So you really like what you've seen now for a couple of starts here from Stolarz, and hopefully you can keep it going. All right, really quickly, we got to get to the second and third star of the game. Who's your second star, Dave?
I'll give it to Mitch Marner. Like that. I was at first I thought he was being too passive in the game, like kind of how we've expected from Marner.
Yeah.
Then the goal, you just again, big time goal, great shot. Like Mitch, you can shoot the puck.
He got that off his stick so quick, like it rocketed stick to twine, like in the back of the net in seconds. It was unreal, and it's like when Marner has confidence, like he's shooting a lot more. And right now he's playing with the utmost confidence. That line, that lineup in general, him, Tavares, Matthews, Nyes, like they're all playing with severe confidence. Nylander as well, obviously. And it's really good to see because they need that going into the postseason. And Marner's at 93 points now, just 7 points shy of his first 100-point season. So he just needs to average a point a game here through the rest of the season, and he's golden. He's got it. He'll have his 100 points. I think it'll happen pretty easily. I think he'll be able to get there before game 82. And if game 82 is meaningless, probably get the night off for him. But I also had him as my second star. I mean, 2 points. Thought he played very well defensively as well. Killed penalties. He just does it all for this team. He's really an engine type of guy. Your third star, Dave.
Third star, I'm gonna go John Tavares.
Yeah, I debated like whether I go Tavares. Bobby McMahon had a strong game as well.
That second line was pretty good.
So like let's give it to the second line. Let's just give it to the line. Like we could just cheat and just give it to the line.
Mike's back. We're cheating. Although I did.
Yeah, that's right. I'm back. I'm back, boys. That's what we're doing. We're back. We're giving it to the second line. Willie, beautiful setup on the Tavares goal. Like those two, honestly, like I'm so glad the chemistry is finally. I don't know why the last couple of seasons they just have not been able to really get anything going offensively, specifically at 5-on-5 this year. Dude, they have been unbelievable as a duo, and like to be able to have the hockey IQ for that little slap pass and for John Tavares to angle a stick properly, get a stick down and get a stick on it, deflect it, redirect it right into the net. Like that's just high hockey IQ. Like that's just the only way to really chalk it up. And obviously Bobby McMahon's been a big part of that line ever since he got there. And Tavares continues his hot play. It was the NHL was his second star in March, NHL second star of the week or the month. Yeah, second or third star of the month. I think he led all goal scorers of the month. Certainly has the most goals out of anyone in the NHL since the Four Nations tournament.
Yep.
And he's been unbelievable over the course of the last 6 weeks or so. And he just continues it into April. Hopefully he can keep her going and not lose that heat, brother. Because this Tavares that we're seeing right now, this is the best we've seen him since year one. Which is insane to say because he's 34 years old and he's still going out there and putting up 38 goals. Unbelievable stuff from John Tavares. So that line as a whole, we got to give him some love. So JT, Bobby, McMahon, and Nylander, they can get the third star tonight.
Yeah, and like I totally thought McMahon was scoring on that breakaway.
I know.
On the pass from Willie there, like. It just seemed like it was faded. That way, I felt like McMahon had kind of drifted a bit into the background the last few games. He wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't providing that presence that we saw when they put that trio together. So this is another important game for him to realize this is an element that this team didn't have last year. They didn't have. Mm-hmm. They had Matthew Nyes, who brings the power forward element. And Matthew Nyes, I gotta give him some love because there was some. He was like acting like a big boy tonight in some cases, but they didn't have that other guy like a Bobby McMahon to do it. He's going to be a problem come playoff time, right? For a lot of teams, whichever team gets this Leafs team round one, good luck going up against a Bobby McMahon. Which it's crazy to say. I didn't expect to say that. I thought he was going to have a half decent year. Didn't expect
X factor, brother. Everyone needs an X factor, and he could be that for Toronto, right? He could be kind of that Zach Hyman-esque player, that secondary scorer that comes up big in those clutch moments. And we know he loves to go to the net. We know he loves to win puck battles, and that's what he's all about. And that's what Toronto needs. Someone, in on that second line to do those things, and he's been willing to do it. He's not afraid to shoot the puck. He had 5 shots on goal tonight and led the entire team in individual expected goals. Had 6 individual chances tonight, 5 individual scoring chances from Bobby McMahon. So he had a good game tonight, absolutely. And as a line, they were quite excellent. All right, a couple of negatives coming out of the game, though. A couple injuries. We'll get to that on the other side. I'm Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with me. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NCAA tournament is here, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's going to be cutting down the net. We're down to the Final Four, and I got my eye on one team, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. With the tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the hoops, college hoops action all tournament long. Welcome back into the Locked On at Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, David Morassutti with you, as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find the video version of the podcast up on YouTube. We'd ask if you enjoy listening to us, that you would subscribe and come back each and every day for a brand new episode of the Locked On Leafs podcast. Toronto with a 3-2 win over the Florida Panthers tonight. They booked their postseason ticket. It's the 9th consecutive season that they'll be heading to the playoffs. Hopefully, they will be doing it with Jake McCabe in the lineup because he left the lineup tonight, Dave. Any concern there?
I mean, whenever you don't have one of your top players available, and I saw the spill into the boards, didn't make much of it. But for him to not be out there in that crucial time of the game, that's what's
concerning, right?
It's concerning, especially the magnitude of the player that Jake McCabe is for this team. We know that he's dealt with, I hate to use the C word, but he's already dealt with a concussion this year. And I know there wasn't a firm update to what, after the game. So I'm sure Craig Berube, Craig's not going to give a full out update. We know that. But that concern always lingers for a player like him.
So if you missed the game last night, Jake McCabe in the final minute and a half was in the game, and he basically took a hit from behind from Carter Verhaeghe and did not end up playing the final minute 23 of the game. And considering that it was a 1-goal game, that's very unusual for him not to be out there in that situation. So that's why it's concerning. It's definitely a spot where he's 100% out there. And if he's not good to go, that's going to raise a couple eyebrows. To your point, Dave, there was no update post game, and usually that's not a great thing. Usually if he's just, it was just to keep him out, just to for precautionary reasons, usually say that. But if they don't have an update, there's usually a little bit more that needs to be looked at. So I don't want to speculate on what the injury is. It did look like a hard hit into the boards, whether it was his head, shoulder, back. No sense in speculating. We'll wait for the update, hopefully over the next couple of days. Leafs don't play again until Saturday, so there is some time to see if he can rest up a little bit, see if he feels better in a couple of days, see if he gets on the ice tomorrow at practice or not. But that is the good thing, that it's kind of a downtime after a really busy schedule in March, a real lull here at the end of the season, which is kind of nice heading into the playoffs. But they got the game tonight on Wednesday. They had a game Saturday, and then they don't play again until Tuesday. So just one game between now and the next time they play Florida next Tuesday. So there's some time for him to rest up. And David Kampf as well, who left the game today and did not return. Was there an update on Kampf, Dave?
No update on Kampf. We at least know this one's an upper body injury. The team did announce that, but no, there was no update on Kampf either. So I know David Kampf is more replaceable than a Jake McCabe, but still not a great sign.
You can make the argument that Jake McCabe is next. Where would you put him? If you had to power rank the most irreplaceable Maple Leafs, where would you put him?
He'd probably be about, I say 3 or 4.
Yeah, behind Matthews and Marner.
Matthews and Marner, even Matthews Tavares. Your centermen are just the center ice is just so crucial, because you lose one of those two guys, it's Max Domi that's your next guy to come up. Which not the end. We've seen him do it, but the quality is not there, right? When you got two guys who are Matthews is Domi's at what, like 10 goals? Not even on the year.
No.
Like the drop off in just a lot of areas with Tavares and Matthews. Like that's why to me they're 1-2. Yeah, you can make the argument for Marner as like number 2 as well.
He's got 8 goals.
Yeah. So I feel like your center icemen are like that. There's just that drastic more importance, but McCabe is like right there.
Yeah. He's right up there, right? Like he's your most important defenseman. I think we've gotten to that point now where it's like Riley, Tanev is really important too. I think it's like a 1A, 1B, but I think McCabe just, he plays with a little more snarl, which is something that this team, obviously loves and we've now realized needs in the lineup, and he can bring that. So hopefully this is not a serious injury of any kind. They really need this guy. If he can't play in the playoffs, that's tough. So again, not going to speculate. We'll update you guys tomorrow. Hopefully we hear something after practice, if not the next day. But that's all we know so far when it comes to those 2 players. Anything else that piqued your interest in tonight's game, or anything else around the league that you want to quickly touch on?
Well, OV's, as you mentioned at the top, he's that much closer. 3 away.
3 away. 3 away. Does he do it, Dave?
He's 1,000% doing it.
Yeah.
Even though the Capitals are not playing so well right now, he's finding a way to get like that goal he scored. Rifle. Absolute rifle.
From The Office. Just straight up setting up shop in the office. He's either going to score, literally, he's scoring from his office or an empty netter. Like those are the way that we're getting OV goals these days, either from the office or an empty netter. But it's crazy how the guy's 39 years old and the NHL still hasn't figured out how to stop him from there.
Yeah.
It's actually insane. It's probably one of the most like dominating things that we've ever seen in hockey is Ovechkin from that spot.
Yeah.
Specifically. It's crazy. All right, buddy. What else happened around the league, actually, really quickly? There's still a couple of games going, but anything else that has some playoff implication?
There was quite a questionable decision by Chatfield on a fight. I can't remember who he was fighting. Oh,
yeah. It was Connor McMichael, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was McMichael. That was bad. Like that could have been really bad.
We see a suspension. Is that suspendable in your opinion? Basically, he like tripped him.
He tripped him, but like slammed him down too. Like he didn't. It wasn't like I'm just gonna I'm gonna throw you down, which I didn't like. I don't know if we're gonna see a suspension with that. Maybe a fine. I think that's a fine-worthy offense. But yeah, no, like that game got really out of hand. Anything else happened in the league tonight? It was kind of a quiet one in the NHL.
Rangers got a win, so they got 2 points, so they stay kind of in lockstep with Montreal for that final wild card spot and Columbus, and it's gonna be a good race, man. Good race right to the end to see who can win that final spot. I'm gonna guess the 8 in the West are pretty much locked in. The way that I mean, St. Louis just can't lose. Like they just don't know how. Was it 9 in a row for them? Like, it's insane.
10 in a row.
10 in a row for the Blues now. And Minnesota, they picked up a pity point tonight in that loss in a loss to the Rangers. So, they even, get an extra point on both Calgary and Vancouver. So seems like those 8 are locked in the West, and it just comes down to who's going to claim that final wild card spot in the East. 2 more weeks to go in the regular season, buddy. Buckle up. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back for another episode for you guys tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.